Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. My name is Joel Goldberg, episode number 48. I don't know if you like round numbers or not, but next Tuesday will be episode number 50. There's not a big party being thrown or anything like that. I just bring that up because we're closing in on at least that milestone, and wasn't really sure or didn't even think when I started this back in late March that there'd be 50 episodes or 100 episodes or 15. I didn't really know. But we're rolling along, no shortage of guests. I am starting to get a lot of people reaching out, which is great because to me what that means is that people are watching, people are talking about it, people are sharing it with their network, and I certainly encourage all of you to do that and share it with everyone. I hope and think these conversations can help lend perspective, also tell stories, and hopefully bring people together. If you have a guest or someone in mind, you can reach out. I now have an executive producer who is working with me on my speaking business and my podcasts and all of that stuff. And so the best way to get a hold of her is at info@joelgoldbergmedia.com. We can't get to all of the guests. They either timing doesn't work, the fit doesn't work, or we maybe already covered that subject. But we'll respond to everything, and I really appreciate all of the ideas. I really also appreciate the partnership with Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you, as they have been amazing in terms of partnership, but also in the way that they have taken care of this community and the many states that they are in. And my friends over at kccattlecompany.com, we took that ground beef last night, Wagyu beef, and my wife made meatloaf. Do people like meatloaf? I love it. I think people are hit and miss on that. You either love it or you hate it, I think. But I mean, if you like meat, why not? Their beef is incredible. Steaks, hot dogs, bacon cheeseburger brats, you name it, ground beef, they've got it. Wagyu beef, veteran owned and operated up in Weston, Missouri. So check them out, and they always have updates going on their social media too. So I hope that you will take a look and visit them. We've talked about all types of subjects on this show, and to me, the common thread is community. It's also leadership and culture, a couple of the topics that I speak about and love sharing with others. And I think my guest today is one that can shed light on all of that, not to mention the fact that this is a time where we're all missing sports, where most of us are, right? And that's not just at the professional level, that's at the youth level. And we all want our kids out there in their activities, whatever it is. And that's starting to happen a little bit more. So I'm happy to bring in to the show right now Damion Brown, Coach Damion Brown, a.k.a. Coach D, who wears many hats, as many people do on this show, at least many of my guests. Rattle those off for me, because I know that we could get into all the different organizations and teams and all of that. Give me a synopsis of all the roles.
Well, my main role is I'm a partner in the U-Hoop organization with my man, Kellen Jackson, where we are building leaders and developing champions for life. Our goal is to take what sports, and especially the sport of basketball, and really get the components of the person in there on a day-to-day basis. And again, leadership being the key component of that, because if you can't communicate, if you can't lead, then there's not going to be much change going on. There's going to be a lot of followers, or again, a lot of mishaps, as we've seen in certain parts of our community right now. Other than that, we have partnered with the Adream Foundation, and that's our nonprofit organization that works with giving opportunities for kids. The acronym Adream stands for A, dynamic reach in education, entertainment, and athletic movement. So that way it encompasses the whole child. Like I said, it's not just the sports component, but what else kind of talents and gifts, or more so, again, dreams do you have, and how can we better help you achieve those? And then the last organization we just started working with is Juneteenth. Which with a lot of people are not too familiar with what Juneteenth is. It's actually the largest national celebrated commemoration of the end of slavery. So Kansas City has its kind of division of the celebration. And I actually got an opportunity to be on the committee this year. So I'd like to talk to you about some of those things later in the podcast, about those opportunities for kids to participate.
We could do that. I put that on a tee for you, and you put it on a tee for me because, in this day and age of pandemic, I don't have a TV truck popping up graphics and switching shots and all that. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes not so much. You've used this platform too, but I like that you set me up there. So I had all those graphics ready, and we'll talk more about those in just a moment. But really, where I want to get to first, I mean, I think without knowing you well, we spent some time on a Zoom call, and mutual friend Cody Isabel, who was a guest on this program on a great panel yesterday, I believe played for you
Yes, he
at
did.
one point way back when. You're, I mean, I know this, you're a people person, you're
Mhm.
someone that likes to help others, but first and foremost, maybe not first and foremost, you're a basketball guy.
Yes.
That's certainly a passion of yours. And the question I have to start is this: how challenging as a coach has it been to coach during a pandemic? And by coaching, I don't necessarily mean games, but
Mhm.
by mentoring kids and all of that. What have the challenges been?
Definitely the access to the kids, because a lot of parents have, of course, the natural fear of protecting their child from being outdoors. So they've been picking up more of the Zoom, these type of streaming opportunities to stay connected, which has been good to for an extent. But I've been lucky enough that there are some outdoor courts near my gym that are not closed, that we've been able to, again, practice proper social density, but at least still get to connect and work together on the court. So that's been a definite stepping stone in the right direction. But it's been a lot of navigation of these new technologies, and again, being remote, and just being, I guess, you're very conscious of how effective each one of your lessons are, so
Hmm.
that way the kid can get the most out of the workout, whether it's 30 minutes or a full hour. But it's
Well,
definitely been fun.
yeah, whether it's the business community, whether it's adults, whether it's kids, we all this day and age, at times, if not all the time, can struggle with attention span,
Mhm.
and that becomes a lot more difficult virtually. It's doable, in my belief. I mean, I've seen it with the speaking, and I've certainly seen it with the networking calls. But especially when you're talking about kids here, look, it can be hard enough, this on the basketball court, or
Mhm.
whatever surface your kid is playing, whatever sport or activity they're in, to keep their attention for a whole practice and activity, even during a game. So how much more challenging is that, or what are the strategies that you have when you're doing it like this?
Definitely more challenging, because I'm a coach that I have certain either mannerisms or phrases I say that kids kind of know that, hey, coach is not playing anymore. So not having that, face to face, it definitely has changed. But using more time segments, so that way the kid has to push themselves through a drill versus, again, me kind of pushing them while I'm there. But being distance and them seeing, hey, I'm showing that time. You only got about 2 minutes or a minute and a half left to get this drill done. They feel those in-game pressures, and it's really helped them kind of lock in to do the drill to the best of their ability versus be distracted by being outside or squirrel. You know how it
Yeah,
goes.
yes, 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 yes. I know how it goes, even personally for myself too. And then I just know, with kids, and one in theater, one in sports,
Mhm.
just watching as they were growing up, and they're getting better at times with that. But we all want to look at our phones. We all have those distractions, and when you get the younger kids, and I know a lot of the kids that you have are extremely driven, and
Yes,
have the potential to be really successful on the basketball court, but look, they're kids, and
absolutely.
they're going to have exactly what you just said, that squirrel mentality. What about just in terms of relationship, and continuing that trust? And I know that you, as a coach,
Mhm.
like a CEO or an executive for an organization, you have to work on that every single day. How has that gone for you with these kids?
Well, lucky enough, kids are kind of ahead of us in this tech world, so we've used a lot of the. I can't remember what it's called, but it's one of the texting apps, GroupMe. So we keep a lot of
Ah,
conversations going on in GroupMe, and then we've actually done a couple team Zoom calls, to where, again, just catching up with each other. I always get on with them and ask them three things. What's the good about the last thing we've been? What's the good thing that's happened in your life since we've been together? What's the bad thing that's happened in your life? And what's the one thing you wish could have happened since we've been together? And that's always started some good conversations, and to keep the guys in line, and stay connected. I appreciate those little small things that we do get to take advantage of.
I like that too. I was on a call last night with a handful of other guys, just catching up, about six of us, and we the conversation went wherever it went over the hour plus. But the ending question was, during this pandemic, what have you done that you would add? What have you done that you would lose, or something along those lines? And what would you do differently? Something like
Mhm.
that. So I think those questions are always always engaging. I'm curious from a basketball standpoint.
Okay.
Is we've never been through a pandemic, obviously, like this, but is basketball in some ways, whether it be an amateur or a professional for that matter, a college kid, is basketball easier than the others? I mean, in a theory, you could in theory you could go out there and work on your skills as just one person. If you're a hockey player like my son, you could certainly work on a shot but you know it's already a challenge to find ice and get on skates. If you're a baseball player, you probably need someone to throw to you or to throw with. Is basketball easier than others, or are there still just as many challenges?
I definitely feel that it's easier for the simple fact that, again, that a lot of basketball games for competition aren't actually playing. You know, you can do horse, you can do shooting, you can do drill. We used to play it back in the day called tip drill, to where you're just trying to tip the ball in the air and not let the ball hit the ground. So there's so many activities you can to continue to help, whether it's your skill development or, like I said, just the recreational fun of the sport. It is very, very, very flexible. Especially given the times of, some basketball courts nowadays don't have rims. So you can do dribble drills just on the line. The lines don't go away. So I've been extremely creative in some of the lessons I've had to work with. But definitely, I feel it is probably the greater sport for an advantage through this pandemic for sure.
How about in terms of workouts without a basketball? And of course, any sport can do that if you're disciplined enough. That football player can still get out there. I don't have weights. Okay, then do push-ups, do dips, do all of that kind of stuff. I say that like I'm exercising that myself. I need some work, and that's all self-discipline. But it's there. I mean, it's there for anyone, any sport,
Yes.
whatever you do if you want to work out. So that's not a problem. Is motivation a challenge right now, and what have you found with those kids who you mentioned the squirrel thing? That's never going to change, but I know a lot of them want to be playing Fortnite, a lot of them want to be on video games, and that's their way. By the way, I figured this out. In the past it was, well, you're playing more video games, and now it was like, yeah, go ahead, you've got connectivity with your friends. So what have you seen, and what challenges have you had to deal with?
I've actually been lucky with my high school group that they are chomping at the bits. They actually came into our system as eighth graders. I coach a small Hebrew school. It's called Hyman Brand. And though we are getting a lot more competitive, we've always skewed very, very, very young. So the fact that they are now starting to develop more worth ethic and more desire to get better, they're actually kind of mad that they can't have the time with together right now. So they actually have been working on their games individually. But when it comes down to some of the AAU and club kids, on the other hand, their biggest goals have been just being showcased, getting out to go to the circuit. So really go play some games, not necessarily developing their skills and abilities to get better. So that is where the challenge has been, is just keeping them understanding, number one, if you're not going to be getting seen this year, you need to be getting better. And if anything, you need to be putting film of you just working out and sharing that information with a college coach, because again, this is the only opportunity he'll get to see you. So that has been probably, I would say, the pulling of the teeth, is to get those kids to understand that, again, this is an opportunity for you to come with a creative access to those coaches versus just, like I said, going and play video games because they got the extra time.
Right. It's interesting because in the baseball world, and I can kind of relate it to that, the draft is one of the biggest in all of the sports, and it's very deep, and you find that diamond in the rough. I mean, if you look in Kansas City, a Whit Merrifield was a 9th round draft pick, and their Gerard Dyson was a 50th round draft pick. They don't even do 50 rounds anymore, but this year they're only doing 5 rounds because of everything that's gone on. And logistically, I guess that's easier. There was also a whole spring season for seniors that were being scouted that might have been drafted right out of high school. Some go to college, some don't, and they didn't get to play. And so much of that scouting now is about video, or it's about one-on-one Zoom conversations. And so what have you heard from some of your better players, your players that, I mean, my heart really goes out for the seniors in high school and the seniors in college that are missing that sport or that activity, especially those at an advanced level, but even those that aren't at an advanced level, because they may never play again anyway.
Right.
How tough has that been for some of your seniors?
Funny enough, the ones that are competitive and serious about it, they're still willing to do anything and everything, because, the ones that are at least impacted by me personally, I tell them that, not everybody has their traditional way to college. You don't just get recruited. You don't get, college coaching just knocking at your door to give you scholarships. Sometimes you got to make phone calls. Sometimes you got to go to two or three tryouts in that summer before you actually go to college next year, or that whole first year of college, spend time, again, getting noticed by the school that you're at. So that has been, I definitely say, a little bit different than normal. But for the other kids that are kind of, again, is basketball or is the sports what I really want to do at the next level, they really make that decision. I can say that they just really made the decision to, like, it's not that important.
Well, I think there's something here too, and this is true in business, that okay, well, we always did things this way. Oh, I needed the face to face. And well, guess what? If you don't have that right now, you still have to find a way to do it, which to me then makes the relationships even more important. And I think they were always important. But how about that? If you're a college coach, and you certainly know all of those guys, or many of them, I would assume.
Yes, sir.
How important then is it for them to be able to say, hey, Coach D, what do you know about this guy? What am I missing? And I know that was always going on anyway, but have those relationships and that importance of trust been taken to another level?
Oh, absolutely, because now they can't see the kid. They have to trust our opinions on it. And to be honest, we have to be real with them. We may be able to fluff here and there because they know they're going to get the opportunity to see it before. But now that they don't, we have to be blunt honest and let them know that, hey, this is good stock to invest in, or, hey, keep looking. That's definitely been some tougher decisions for some players, for sure.
You want to place those kids, but you also want the right fit.
Yes.
Doesn't do any good for you to pump them up and then know in your heart that it's just not going to work out.
Yes.
Get them into the right spot. If that's a lesser spot or a smaller spot, so be it. Okay, tell me again about Adream.
Absolutely. So pretty much a nonprofit which focuses on working with organizations, whether like the Boys and Girls Club, Team Cure, which works with character development for people, for young athletes, so that way they can get that competitive edge to go to college and get scholarships. College Coaching Network, which is an organization that automates the scholarship finding process. So again, if you're any athlete or student and you're looking for scholarships, College Coaching Network is a huge resource for you to be able to find, whether it's ethnic, economic, or again, specialties that are offered just at the universities or schools you plan to attend. So our goal is to connect the people to the opportunity. That's really what it is a lot of kids don't get to keep their dreams, so we want to make sure that you don't have to just follow into the cookie cutter program of the world, but you really, truly can follow your dreams. So one of those aspects, yes, is the college, but we also have entrepreneurship and financial literacy, because there are certain ways that younger people are learning in the technology world that they can make money with their talents or their abilities, or just their God-given innate to understand what computers can and can't do. And they need to take full advantage of that. And so we try to provide opportunities and programs to do that as well.
Right. And so this isn't just focusing on the basketball player,
Yes,
but really, so what is all of that process like, and how detailed does it get? How involved, how hands-on is it?
Well, definitely we like to tie you with a mentor, whether that's someone within the organization ourselves, or whether it's someone in the community according to the plan you have for yourself. So if you wanted to be a financial consultant, then I would talk to some of the financial people that we know in our Rolodex, and actually communicate them to get you some sort of either mentorship, because I love apprenticeships. I wish we actually have those more in our world, because again, it's more relative, it's quicker, and you're going to be live action, ready to go in fashion you would in a 4-year degree sometimes, So that's kind of how we try to be hands-on. And like I said, partnering with organizations and come alongside and supporting what they're already doing. So one thing that we did is with Kareem Rush, we actually were with the Boys and Girls Club and did a 3-on-3 pilot, to where each week during the 3-on-3 training and games, they would get some sort of leadership or community outreach project. So whether that's working with a professional on nutrition, if you want to be a young athlete, how do you eat the right way? Or whether it's, again, what I think we are all needing right now is, where's our mentality? Where in adversity and struggles, how are we handling that? So working with the organization called Triumph Performance Institute to, again, help find that niche of your mind to help you unlock your hidden potentials and overcome limiting beliefs. So we are very, very, very diverse. And because, again, the world is changing and these kids are the ones shaping it. So we need to be alongside them in the process.
having the Kareem Rushes of the world in a community like Kansas City never hurts. He was them. Well, he was at a different level than many of them at
Yes,
one point, but he was that kid at some point.
absolutely. That's a strong, powerful story.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's talk a little bit more about Juneteenth. Tell me about that
Yeah.
one. Love the name too.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, Juneteenth is the largest, most recognized commemoration of the ending of slavery in America. And what they do is June 19th is the actual day. And how most cities do it is they have a celebration that go on for a week or two. It's going to be usually live to where you would be in the inner city community or in a community where they feel is going to have the greatest impact within the inner city. And they work with workshops, different types of like the Nelson Atkins Museum has a portion of that. But now that this year is coronavirus, we are all doing what's called a remote. So the celebration is not going to go on the entire time of June, starting June 1st. And they're going to be live workshops provided by the city, by local professionals. I think Mayor Quentin Lucas is going to have one as well. And on top of that, we are going to have our esports competition. We're going to be having 4 games. We'll have Fortnite, Brawlhalla, and then 2 versions of NBA 2K. One where you can just play as one person playing, controlling your team, and then also one where you can play with friends in a 3v3 sort of competition. And the grand prize for that is a PlayStation 5. So it's free to register, and again, free chance to win a PlayStation 5. You can't beat that. But they'll have all sorts of things going on throughout the whole month.
I believe that every kid, well, not every kid, most kids, certainly my oldest would be more than happy to win one of those. I'll tell you what, too, and I know you and I talked about this just a little bit before we went on, but the emergence of esports, that's certainly not anything that I could have ever envisioned would have been I mean, we played video games as kids. It certainly wasn't a sport. If anyone right now is watching and they're saying, really? Then you haven't been filled in yet on the type of scholarships and what can go on. If you know, it's something that I've started to learn a little bit about in the last couple of years. Just it's interesting to me. Coach D, this is a sport, isn't it?
Yes. I was actually on a panelist conversation last night where we talked about it is the new athlete, the gamer. Now colleges, high schools are starting to start their own competitions, and it's starting to be something very, I would say, again, it's just the next generation of connectivity for kids. Scholarshiping, you can be professional in actually getting paid. Like I said, there's a kid 16 years old that won Fortnite competition for millions of dollars. That just was unheard of back in our day. I remember playing PlayStation when they first came out and seeing the cheat code books. They always had the cheat code books and on the back of there, it would tell you, would you like to get paid to be a gamer? And I, every kid thought so, but never took it seriously because your parents were like, you can't do that. You won't get paid. And
right.
Now you 100% can. And it's still growing. I would say that the coronavirus has probably sped up the early adoption process of it all. And I think that a lot of people are coming now more, like you said, a little bit more used to the terminology, getting kind of into how it works. And, again, for parents, your child may be spending those 5 hours to earn that scholarship, that he's on. He's not just wasting his time, but he's honing his skills. Now, the goal for a parent, I would say, is find out if he has skills, because if he does, this could be some way that's a little bit, I would say, easier because the competition level of people trying to get these scholarships is smaller. So that if they wanted to have the athletic dream, they could be both an esports gamer and their sport athlete of their choice, because again, they don't necessarily overlap because you can do that in scheduled times. It's pretty phenomenal.
We could debate whether it's a sport or not in the same way that people have always said, well, is NASCAR a sport? Or everybody's definition can be different. So whether we agree or disagree on that, because I would still suggest that it is important to get outside. It is important to be active and do that along with sitting in front of the video games.
Absolutely.
The flip side of it is that just because they're in front of those video games for 2, 3, 5 hours doesn't mean that they're not being productive. But I think that there needs to be a healthy balance. I think that's probably important with everything in life. But, like anything else, times change. And, you look at these times of being quarantined and everything we talked about and still being able to work out in the house or work on those jump shots or whatever it is. the world of esports or anything that you're able to do within your house has grown. It's just
Yes.
we're going to come out of this differently, and that's a long way of me leading to a question. A little bit of what I talked about with my panel, which involved Cody yesterday.
Okay.
It was a conversation about generations, and
Mhm.
I see this in the workplace. I see it in the locker rooms. The guys that are walking into, say, the Royals clubhouse in 2019, I can't speak for 2020 yet, but the young guys that are walking in there are different than the ones that were first walking in when I got here in 2008. What do you see in your world? I saw a quote, I think, on one of the websites that you had from Bobby Knight.
Mhm.
And I don't know if Coach Knight could coach in this generation. Maybe. I think he'd have to change, and he doesn't seem like the type of guy that changes. What's different today than when you first got in?
The need for positive reinforcement. It is essential to reaching the new athlete of this generation. They do not take criticism very well.
Mm.
Coach Cage, my partner, mentions you have to have a 6-to-1, 6 positives to the 1 negative you want to say to them. Like you said, Bobby Knight, you didn't do something, you're going to hear fully about what that is. And you just can't do that, and it's more so, again, in getting the output of the child as much as continue to keep the relationship intact. Now, a lot of kids, they'll quit. They'll quit, and especially with the little adversity coming from their coach when it comes down to holding them accountable.
And there's also an accountability factor that's different nowadays. I
Mm-hmm.
think when you were playing, there was the leader on the team or the leaders, and they may or may not have been the best, but they were certainly the one that everybody paid attention to.
Mm-hmm.
That might pin you up against the wall and say, "Get your act together," and
Yes.
we'll use those words. But I heard from a coach. I was doing a college hockey game a handful of years ago. It's been about 5 years now, and the coach said to me, he said, in the past, those guys would just get on each other, and they would take care of it. He said, they don't want to do that anymore. It's just different. He said something really interesting to me. He said, in hockey, being the captain is a big deal. You wear that
Mm-hmm.
C on your hockey jersey or your hockey sweater. It's the ultimate compliment. And there aren't a lot of sports that, sometimes you'll get a captain in basketball or baseball. You have, I think, like 10 captains sometimes in football. But that one guy that wears that C is a big deal. And he said that this guy was the new captain. He's a senior, and a good program too. And he says that the kid was just struggling. It was almost like it was too much for him.
Hmm.
And he says to me and my broadcast partner, he says, so I took the C from him, and I went to him and I said, listen, I'll be the captain as the coach. He says, I'll be the captain. You go focus on what you want to do and don't worry about it. And he said the kid was so relieved, and he said, I don't even know what that meant for me to be the captain, but to remove that responsibility from him, it was like, something that was up here. And I wonder how much of that you see, not that specific story, but
Right.
just the way these kids handle accountability. And by the way, this isn't these kids can, it just
No.
changes, I think,
Yes.
how much do you see of that?
It's a hit or miss sometimes because we have a lot of kids in our program, by the time they get to us, have already had a bad story. So getting the newness of our program already establishes just a different feeling for them in any capacity of accountability, because we aren't yelling at them. We are encouraging them. We are supportive. And when we're on them, they really understand it's now more their personal responsibility. I mean, day one, we literally make an even playing field. We say, don't let anybody else take away your best effort. Don't look at someone else and see what they're doing, compare. I say, comparison is the thief of all joy. Your goal is for you to be the best you can be today. And if you can't, before you walk in those doors, let us know so we can do our best to help you. I think that those first levels of an established understanding of how we're going to do this together is really help open more doors for kids that are a little bit more shy to being accountable, or shy to, again, talking to their teammate about doing something that they did wrong. Because kids, now, and again, I never really remember bullies. Bullies were a movie theme, growing up. I don't remember anybody putting people in lockers or giving them swirlies in the toilet. That was like Dennis the Menace type of, things for me. But nowadays, bullying is in a whole nother level. And it's because of the cyber connections. And so I just think these kids are so temperamental when it comes down to any sort of comments or criticisms. So again, accountability is definitely something that you have to be very, 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 very cautious of how you do it. And again, sharing equality amongst the group, I've seen work very, very, very well.
I like that comment there too, and I had it in my head and I just lost it. Comparison is the thief of
Thief
joy.
of
Is that
all
what it is?
joy.
Of all
Thief of
joy.
all joy. Yep.
I love that one a lot, and
Coach
I
Freeze.
think too that with with all the distractions that we talked about, the squirrel thing, with all of the temptations and also the ease of bullying and cyber bullying and all of that,
Mhm.
that that you guys maybe have a greater role than ever before. And I think that a coach's role was always so much bigger than developing a basketball player, a baseball
Yes.
player, football, soccer, hockey, on and on and on, wrestling, gymnastics. But is there a greater need for what you guys do now than ever?
Absolutely. The gap between parents and their children are growing bigger because kids are getting older faster. So
Mm.
they're taking on more responsibility because they're knowing more of how the world works and the technology advancement. I think that has really bridged a lot of gap of time for development. The kids are, again, expecting certain things faster. So where they feel they can be the most comfortable is with their coach. Sometimes they don't even tell their friends because, like I said, just the peer pressures and the looking at each other differently is a tendency. And so being able to lean on your coach, who's again, very non-biased to most topics I have to share with them, has definitely been something I've seen change in the last 10 years for sure.
Yeah, and you founded the U Hoop organization, and so you've seen those kids come and move
Mhm.
on, and I'm sure many success stories along the way, not just in basketball, but in life, which is really
Absolutely.
ultimately what it's about. So my last question regarding that, and then we'll get ready to wrap this up.
Okay.
It's a little bit of what I talked about with the panel yesterday too. What are your best strategies as you get? And I always say this with the baseball players I cover. I keep getting older every year, and they keep getting younger. Right? You've been living in that world now for what, 13 years or whatever it's been that you've
About
been
20
coaching.
now, actually.
Or 20 now. Okay. Yeah. Well, I could speak to that. Or as Francisco Lindor, the star shortstop of the Cleveland Indians, once told me, he goes, "You don't got gray hair, you got white hair." And I said, "Yeah, no, you're right about that one." But okay, so 20 years. We talked about the differences of kids now versus back then. What are your top And I think that a lot of people that are watching this too, that have younger employees. This was what the discussion was yesterday, the whole okay boomer and how do you get boomers, and there's still plenty left in the workplace, and
Mhm.
Gen X like me to connect with a younger millennial or even Gen Z. What are your strategies in connecting with those kids in this modern day?
Uh, Very similar to what I said before, as far as layering that foundation early, and I've been coining the phrase joint accountability. If we come together with them, they feel more a part of it. If we're telling them, they're not going to respond. But if
Mm-hmm.
we work with them in the process and they feel that their input is just as valuable as ours, you'll see a lot of changes in their effort, their intensity, and their focus for sure. That's what I've seen, is just definitely being working with them on a level playing field.
It's got to be a joint effort,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think this is what I said to the group yesterday. Look, we as an older generation, I'll throw you in there with me, we can learn from the younger generation.
Yes.
And if we're willing to learn from them, they'll be willing to learn from us. Look, there are plenty of things that and maybe you're more in touch with it than me because you're around those kids
Mm-hmm.
so much, but if you sitting at home have kids that are teaching you how to do something, then guess what? There's some things you don't know. Vice versa, there's so much wisdom and knowledge that we can share. When you're willing to embrace what they have, they're suddenly
Absolutely.
it's gonna bridge that gap a little bit. Then you have that teamwork. That's what ends up working in any organization for me. Okay, so as we wrap it up here, let's go in reverse order. If people want to be involved in the Juneteenth celebrations, again, the whole month because
The
of this
whole month.
pandemic right now, which means we're starting next week, right?
Yes. Yep. Each day will have kind of a different segment. So I may mess it up a little bit, but there's going to be youth health and wellness. There's going to be entrepreneurship. And these are workshops that go on either Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, that you'll get some content that will help benefit you, whether you're a child, whether you're a professional, or whether you're just a Kansas City citizen.
Okay, so the information is up there on the screen if you want to get involved in that. And same thing, not same thing, but for Adream, they can reach out and get involved too.
Yes, yeah. If you whether you want to volunteer, like to donate, or would like to just hear more about our programming and see how we can actually join together and impact in the community, please check us out.
And you can get information about uhoop.org. Here's the last question that I had for you. This isn't a fair one, but I'll put you on the spot anyway.
Okay, I'm ready.
Best player that you have either coached or coached against?
Coached, I love my man Clayton Custer. I love that kid. Played or coached against Perry Ellis. You know, during my time at Blue Valley Northwest with Coach Fritz, we lost him 3 years in a row on his 4-year run of Kansas.
4 years, yes, right?
Yes,
4 years. Felt like 10. He might still be there. I don't even know. But so in my early years, I did cover a lot of basketball. I'm more removed from it, so just a fan now. But I just because it's fun and you'll enjoy it. The best player that I covered and watched as a student, as an intern at the University of Wisconsin, was Michael Finley. He obviously went on to have a ridiculous career and lost in the shuffle of that. I mean, I was in school at the time of the Fab Five, so when Michigan came to town, I mean, you think about the guys that I would get to watch. I know Big Ten doesn't always get, doesn't get the attention of, say, the ACC, but we had the Fab Five coming in. We had at least earlier, a little bit before that, Steve Smith coming in from Michigan State. We had the big dog Glenn Robinson coming in from Purdue. We had Jimmy Jackson from Ohio State coming in. I mean, it was so much fun. And then in my years of covering high school basketball, which was really on the St. Louis side, Darius Miles was special. Oh man, I actually hung out on his front porch covering at local news his prom night. I mean, he was either about to be drafted or was already drafted, heading to the NBA straight out of high school. And here's this, I don't remember how tall Darius is, 6'10" or whatever. Headed to the NBA kid in a tuxedo and prom over in East St. Louis. That was cool. But the one that I love, and I'll leave it at this because this is fun to see the way things develop, was they used to have, I don't know if you remember, they used to have this Coca-Cola shootout in St. Louis, a 2-day event. Some of the, they'd start with the smaller schools and it'd build up to the marquee matchup, which was usually 2 schools from somewhere else around the country.
Okay.
And the marquee matchup on this night, maybe one of the last years I covered it, was it featured 2 high school kids that would go on to play in the NBA, Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler. But Curry, I think, had the flu. The game wasn't a dud, but it didn't quite live up to what we thought it would. It was the game before that, and hands down the best player in those 2 days, by far better than Curry and Chandler, and actually ended up playing out maybe in his career, was a local kid in St.Louis, David Lee. And he stole the show, went on to University of Florida, and had a heck of an NBA career. Hard worker. I don't know if you coached against him, but he was tough. He was really tough. So it's fun. It's fun to watch and see where those kids go, what ends up happening. Look at a Kareem Rush, having covered him in college and all of that. You never know, right? I mean, you could see certain things and certain skills. But so much of, and I'll wrap it up with this, so much of what you guys do at this level, at this age, is, to me, so much more about just basketball.
So much more. It's about life.
It's about life. And guess what? Most of them aren't going to play in the NBA. And if they do, they still need those life skills, obviously. So uhoop.org, adream.org, Juneteenth-kc.com is the way to get involved and learn more about any of those organizations. And I hope that soon, whether it be over at the Hyman Hebrew Academy or whether it be all those organizations that we see you and all those kids back on the basketball court.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
That's what it's all about. So, hey, Damion, a.k.a. Coach D. I think anybody that knows Damion Brown doesn't really know him as that. They know him as Coach D, right?
Very true.
Right.
It's like Men in Black, keeps it simple.
keep it simple, right? Hey, I appreciate you spending all the time. Yeah, this is great. And keep me keep me updated on what you guys are doing. I look forward to it.
I will. Thank you again, Joel.
All right, Coach D, appreciate it and good to visit with him, and want to thank all of you for watching here today as another week is in the books here on Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Thanks to Casey Cattle Company. You could check them out on social media or their website. Get that order in for that Wagyu beef. It'll change your life. I'm telling you, because it has with us. If you like burgers and steaks and all of that, you haven't really tasted one like this until you order it. So check out the website. They do deliver to all 50 states. And a big thanks to my friends at Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. We've got a great lineup of guests again next week. Episode 49 on Monday, episode 50 on Tuesday. You can reach out to info@joelgoldbergmedia.com if you have some suggestions. Have a good, safe, and healthy weekend, everybody. And see you back here when we start June, I believe, on Monday with Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.